Welcome, everyone. This is our 8th session of the Direct Care Resilience series, and we're very happy to have you all here with us today. We're going to go ahead and jump right into today's presentation. Today, we're going to be talking about the 8 dimensions of wellness that we've adopted here at Minot State University, and I would like to pass it over to Paul Brecky, who's going to be our presenter. So thank you for being here, Paul.
Thanks for having me. Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good day. This presentation is just something that we came up with. It's not unique by any means. There's different versions out there that you'll see, but this is just the one that works for us on campus. It's one that you can see the wellness wheel in front of you there that we have on campus. We have 8 dimensions. You'll see versions of this that might have 5 dimensions, might have 3, might have 6. It's kind of make it work for your own environment. So, but those are the 8 dimensions that we, I guess, promote on campus. There's physical, social, environmental, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, occupational, and multicultural. The one on there that financial is one that I think a lot of people add to their wheels now. We kind of include that in the occupational side of it, but I think financial one is something that could be a standalone on its own by itself also. If you could flip to the next slide, thanks. So I'll ask this question. You can see some of the answers there on the slide, but how do you guys define wellness? Is there a word? Is there things that pop into your head when you think of the word wellness? Anybody can go ahead and respond and shout something out.
Looks like we have some people entering their answers into the
Okay.
chat.
Yep, I see it now. Yep, perfect.
Yeah, fantastic.
Obviously, it's different for all of us, and that's what's unique about the term wellness and well-being is it's very individualized. It's different for all of us. What makes one person feel whole and well is different than the next person. So if you could flip to the next slide for me here. There's a wellness definition from the National Wellness Institute. I think that's kind of a boring version. If you click to the next slide, that's my definition of what wellness is. And that's whatever makes you happy. It's different for all of us. Like I said, it could be if you need to go out and run 5 miles a day, go out and do that. If you need to go and volunteer at the nonprofit down the road every day, you should go do that. If you need to read every day and read a book, you should do that. Whatever it is that makes you feel happy inside and feel comfortable with who you are, that's what you should do and schedule it into your day. It's just like we schedule meetings and different things for work and for our personal lives. You should schedule in those activities that make you happy. Put it on your calendar. It's no different than anything else. Let's go to the next slide if we could. So what I like to think about that wellness wheel and those different dimensions that are on the wheel, I like to think of them as spokes on a tire. And if you think about tires, obviously tires can go flat. So if your tire's not rolling along real smoothly, if you pull some of those spokes out of that wheel, it doesn't roll as smooth. You get a flat tire. If you can go to the next slide here next, if you could. So some of the things when you have a flat tire is it makes steering difficult. It makes the destination harder to reach, obviously. It makes the ride bumpier and shakier. So if your wellness wheel is not inflated completely and you take some of those spokes, those dimensions out of your tire, it causes those same outcomes in your life. You know, it can cause wrecks. It can makes the destination harder to get to. Makes the ride bumpier and shakier. It's harder, more difficult to steer straight. So we want to keep it. It's not necessarily having all of those 8 dimensions totally balanced, but it's a part of making sure that you have the tools in your toolbox for those dimensions to go to when you need them. You know, if you're having a death in your family, what are the spokes for your emotional wellness? What are the tools in your toolbox that you can go to? And just like that, and so on and so forth for all of the different dimensions. We go to the next slide. So there's those 8 dimensions written out again. I have all of a slide for each of the dimensions and an actual a definition for each of them. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on those. We'll go ahead and go through each one of them. You can read through them. You can go back through and read them, you know, more closely if you want when you have the presentation. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And maybe just leave each one on there for a second. I'm not going to spend, like I said, you can read through them. Just spend a couple seconds on each slide as we go. I want to make sure we've got time to go through the actual activity and get through all 32 questions for that worksheet. So. Okay, there's the worksheet. Hopefully all of you have been able to download and have a copy of that in front of you. So what we're going to do is, you can see there's the 8 different dimensions. There's 4 different questions for each dimension. There, Krista put a link to the worksheet in the chat box also. So, but 4 different questions. We're going to read through each of those questions. You can go ahead and go to the next slide if you would. I don't want you to think a lot about the question, just whichever your first response is. You're going to think about whatever the question is. Like example number 1 is, do you eat a balanced nutritional diet? Don't overthink it. Just, do you do that 100% of the time? Do you do that 50% of the time? 75%, 25%? And you'll see on the wheel that there's lines on the wheel that you can fill in and color in each of those pieces of the pie. So as we go through each question, you can fill in that piece of the pie to the percent that you do that question. You know, do you eat a balanced nutritional diet 100% of the time, 50% of the time, and then color in that section of the pie on your worksheet. And we'll do that for all 32 questions. Go ahead, next slide. So there's the first 4 questions about the physical dimension. And the first one there is, do you eat a balanced nutritional diet? Do you do that 100% of the time? No. If you don't do it at all, just don't leave it blank. For question number 2, do you exercise at least 3 times a week? Question number 3, do you use alcohol or other drugs? Question number 4, are you generally free from illness? So like I said, don't overthink them. Just, what do you do generally right now in your present day in life, not what you did 3 months ago or what you plan to do with your next as you come up with different goals and in your life, just what do you do present day? Let's go on and move to the next dimension, social dimension. And we can go back to these questions too at any point in time at the end. Number 5, are you aware of the feelings of others and you can respond appropriately? Do you do that 100% of the time, 50% of the time? How often are you aware of the feelings of others? Question 6, do you have at least 3 people with whom you have a close, trusting relationship? Do you have at least 3 people with whom you have a close, trusting relationship? 100% of the time, 50% of the time, none of the time? How often? Number 7, do you have a satisfying social interaction with others? Do you have satisfying social interaction with others? 100% of the time, 0% of the time? How often? And question number 8, do you have a sense of belonging? 100% of the time, 50% of the time? How often do you have a sense of belonging? And that is the social dimension. Let's move on to the next slide, the environmental. So question number 9 on the worksheet, do you take pride in your surroundings and spend time outdoors enjoying nature? How often do you do that? 100% of the time, 50% of the time? How often do you take pride in your surroundings? Question 10, do you believe in the preservation and protection of natural resources? 100% of the time, 10% of the time? How often do you believe in the preservation and protection of resources? Number 11, do you reduce, reuse, and recycle products? Do you reduce, reuse, and recycle? 100% of the time, 50% of the time? How often? Question number 12 on the worksheet, do you participate in events that help your community? Do you participate in events that help your community, such as planting trees, fundraisers, cleanup days? How often do you do that? And let's move to the next slide, the next dimension, intellectual dimension. Do you have specific intellectual goals, such as learning new skills? Or as in the higher ed world, a specific major? Number 13, do you have specific intellectual goals? Number 14, do you pursue mentally stimulating interests or hobbies? How often do you pursue different interests and hobbies? 100% of the time, 50% of the time? Question 15, are you generally satisfied with your education and vocation plan? 100% of the time, 10% of the time? How often are you satisfied with your education plan or vocation? Number 16, would you describe yourself as a lifelong learner? Would you describe yourself as a lifelong learner? 50% of the time, 0% of the time? How often? Next slide, next dimension, emotional dimension. Do you have a sense of fun and laughter? 100% of the time, 50% of the time? How often do you have a sense of fun and laughter? Number 18, do you express your feelings appropriately? Do you express your feelings appropriately? 100% of the time, 50% of the time? How often? Question 19 on the worksheet, do you have a sense of control in your life and can adapt to change? Do you have a sense of control in your life and can adapt to change? 50% of the time, 10%? How often? Question 20, do you comfort and console yourself when you're troubled? Can you comfort and console yourself when you're troubled? 100% of the time, 10% of the time? How often? Next slide, next dimension, the spiritual dimension. Question 21 on your worksheet. Do you practice meditation, pray, or engage in some type of growth practice? Do you practice meditation, pray, or engage in some type of growth practice? 0% of the time, 100% of the time? How often? 22, do you have faith in a higher power? 100% of the time, 50% of the time? How often? Question 23, do you have a sense of meaning and purpose in your life? Do you have a sense of meaning and purpose in your life? 100% of the time, 50% of the time? How often? Number 24, do principles, ethics, and morals provide a guide for your life? Do principles, ethics, and morals provide a guide for your life? 50% of the time, 0% of the time? How often? Next slide, please. The next dimension, occupational dimension, number 25. Do you enjoy discussing career choices? Is that something you enjoy to do? 100% of the time, 50% of the time? How often do you enjoy discussing career choices? Question 26. Do you strive to develop good work habits? 100% of the time, 50% of the time? How often do you strive to develop good work habits? Question 27. Do you take advantage of opportunities to learn new skills? How often do you take advantage of opportunities to learn new skills? 0% of the time, 50% of the time? How often do you take advantage of opportunities to learn new skills? Question 28. Do you work effectively with others? How often do you work effectively with others? 100% of the time, 50% of the time, 75%? How often do you work effectively with others? On to the next slide. Last dimension, multicultural dimension. Number 29, do you explore your own cultural heritage? How often do you explore your own cultural heritage? 50% of the time, 0% of the time? How often? Question 30, do you try to appreciate other cultures other than your own? Do you try to appreciate cultures other than your own? 100% of the time, 50% of the time, 10%? How often do you try to appreciate cultures other than your own? Question 31, do you try to get to know someone from a different culture? How often do you try to get to know someone from a different culture? 50% of the time, 10%? How often? Last question, number 32. Do you try to treat other groups and individuals fairly without prejudice and stereotypes? How often do you treat other groups and individuals fairly without prejudice and stereotypes? 50% of the time? 100%? How often? Okay, let's move to the next slide. So remember that there's no right or wrong answer to any of these questions. Obviously, we're all unique, we're all individualized. There's no right or wrong way to answer any of these questions. What's unique about this exercise is that depending on where you're at in your life, things that are going on, age, stage of your life, there's different responsibilities and different things that go on as we age and go through life. So that worksheet will look different all the time based on what you're doing. You could do this exercise today, do it 6 days from now, do it 6 months from now. You might get three different complete colors on your wellness wheel just based on what's going on in your life. Does anybody want to share what their worksheet looked like? What dimension had the most color in it? The second part of that question would be, would you have predicted that before we started? There's a question in the chat. Could we show the physical dimension questions again? There we go. So if somebody had the physical dimension, had the most color in their wheel, would you have predicted that before we started the exercise? And the same thing goes with what dimension had the least amount of color in your wheel. Would you have predicted that before we started the exercise and started asking the questions? So you can take the feedback, what dimensions had the most color, and go, I'm doing pretty well in those dimensions. I can maybe leave those alone and maybe work on some of those dimensions that didn't have as much color according to the exercise and the worksheet. And maybe just find something, if emotional wellness or social wellness was something that you didn't have a lot of color in, maybe you put something in your calendar to have coffee with a friend once a week, and slowly add that in to help, not like I said to begin the exercise, not to balance it in complete balance, but to help put some of those tools in the toolbox to help fulfill those dimensions that were short on color. Any other questions? What's that?
Oh, this is Krista. I really appreciate the note that this wheel changes nonstop. So I think you had done this presentation about a year ago, almost to the day. And the first time that I had done this, the physical dimension was like -70. And I was like, okay, yes, I know I don't need to see it. I'm well aware. And now it's funny because I've started to actually take care of myself by eating, more nutritious food and exercising. So it is just really cool to see like how this wheel changes, as life progresses and you don't have a master's degree that's killing you on the sidelines.
For sure. And that's the whole part of the example. That's a great example of the whole exercise, is as we go through life and the different things that are going on, whether we're taking a master's degree or whatever it might be, having more children, there's different things that take more time in your life. And sometimes we just need these little reminders to help balance things out again and to bring those things back into a part of our life. So that's the funnest part with me, is doing this exercise a few different times with different people and students on campus, and having them see that the wheel looks differently as they're in their first year of college or their fourth year of college, or they're faculty or staff working on campus and they've got different things going on in their lives, and they come and do this 6 months apart or whatever it might be, or as a year, as you just mentioned there. So and
Did
go ahead.
everyone have a chance to see the questions? Is there any more requests for certain slides? Feel free to type it or just unmute. If not, I'm just going to slowly get you back to where you were.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. And I kind of went through that and asked those questions about which sections had the most color and least color, and that they do change. So, and here's kind of the reflection and the feedback, what are some things that you can do in your life, and like I said, be specific with it and put it on a calendar. It doesn't have to be perfect. Even if you put down coffee to go have coffee with friends once a week and you miss it, that's fine. Try to make an effort to do that the following week and get back on track. It's not, like I said, none of this is perfect, and there's no right or wrong answers to it. It's just a little tool which you can put in your toolbox to help get you through and balance and have a good well-being. So go ahead to the next slide. That's pretty much my info there. If you have any questions, you can feel free to email me at that address. Be happy to answer any other questions that you want to talk through or don't want to do on the actual presentation here. So
Yeah, thank you so much, Paul. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and pass it over to our case presenter for today. We have Amy Silverwood, who's joining us from the 1st District Health Unit, and she's going to share some information about a new initiative that they have called Credible Mind.
Thank you very much for that. Yep, like Krista said, I'm Amy. I'm from First District Health Unit. I have been here nearly a year now, and we have recently partnered with a company called Credible Mind. I'm just going to share my screen so you guys can all see my screen. Let me decide which one. This one. Okay, and then can you see the PowerPoint screen or the speaker screen? PowerPoint screen?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so this was just an introduction to the Credible Mind platform. My email's on there. It's also on the end of the PowerPoint too, if anyone had any questions. I don't know if I already said, I'm the executive assistant here at First District Health Unit. I'm currently doing my master's in public health, and I've been here for nearly a year. So I've been tasked, which I love because I'm very passionate about mental health, about implementing and promoting our Credible Mind platform. So that's what I'm going to be doing with you guys today. If anyone has any questions throughout them, you're more than welcome to jump in or type them in the chat. I haven't got the chat specifically open right now, but if someone could read that out to me, that would be ideal. So this is the background that I wanted to give first. Here at First District, we serve 7 counties, the ones that are in red. And back in 2022, towards the end of COVID, we did some focus groups in all of our 7 counties to ask what people are struggling with, what they want to see more of, and just any topics that people wanted to discuss. And throughout the focus groups in all of these counties, mental health resources and lack of mental health providers was a theme that was coming up at every county. Every county, people were mentioning that they didn't have access to mental health resources when they want or need them, and mental health providers. We don't have mental health provider here at First District, so there wasn't really we couldn't specifically try and help with that, but the mental health resources was something that we could definitely try and help with. Because of people saying there was a lack of mental health resources, we did research and we looked at different mental health resources online, and we wanted to find some that were not only accessible to everybody, but were also validated and trusted resources. So that's why we decided to partner with Credible Mind. So the mission of Credible Mind is to provide and empower all people with the opportunity to take charge of their own mental health. And the QR code is down in the bottom right, if anyone wanted to have a look at the website just while I was discussing. It's throughout, and it's at the end as well, so you can have a look at the end as well. So this is the reason and the challenge why Credible Mind was created. So 1 in 5 US adults experience mental illness each year. This is the one that I point out every time because it really shocked me when I first found out. The average delay between onset of mental illness symptoms and treatment is 11 years. So that could be your first panic attack or your first down day. Any sort of mental health symptom, and the gap between getting professional help is usually 11 years. 55% of US counties do not have a single practicing psychiatrist, and at least 8.4 million people in the US provide care to an adult with a mental or emotional health issue. This is the why behind why Credible Mind was created itself. So NACCHO partnered with Credible Mind to create what was called a Behavioral Health 360. It's a program designed to help combat the country's mental health crisis. These were the main statistics as to why. The two that I focus on the most is that 75% of people who attempt to work on their mental health do it so alone before they seek any external help. And 95% of those resources that people are seeking and using when they're trying to work on their mental health have not been validated in any way. So they haven't gone through mental health professionals, they haven't been fact-checked or anything like that. So that's one of the reasons why Credible Mind was created. It kind of says it in the name that these resources are credible and they have gone through mental health professionals. So the key features of Credible Mind are that they offer brief scientifically validated assessments covering different topics. They have expert and user ratings to indicate what's best. It's similar to kind of the App Store where it's got the stars and the 5-star rating. There's more than 200 mental health and wellbeing topics, including evidence-based approaches that address areas of concern. Adaptable to different learning styles. So there's over 16,000 resources, and everybody has their own learning style. Everyone digests information a little bit differently. Myself personally, I like podcasts, but some people might like books, videos. They might like applications on their phone. So there's resources for all of those different learning styles on there. And also it's a web-based platform available 24/7 at no cost to the user. So it's completely free to everybody that wants to use it. You can use it on your browser on your phone, like Google or Safari. If people don't have access to phones or computers, you can use it at the library. You don't have to log in or anything like that. There's no personal information. There is options to log in, and there are benefits to logging in, which I'll discuss later. But it is all HIPAA compliant. We don't see here at First District, we don't see anything other than, for example, just your what gender you identify as, and your like town and your age group. That's all we can see. These are the key messages of Credible Minds. So you are not alone, you have choices, you can trust them, and that the platform was built by mental health and wellbeing experts, and it is more than just mental health. So it is a full wellbeing, emotional and spiritual toolkit. So it doesn't just talk about mental health disorders and give resources for that, but it also talks about development and empowering yourself. These are the trending topics at the moment on Credible Mind. I screenshot this because I just wanted to show you how robust and all the different kind of topics that are covered. So on the left-hand side, you're going to see anxiety and depression, which obviously are very prominent at the moment, and that you would kind of expect to see on trending topics. But there's also things like meaning and purpose. So learn how to find your why, and exercise and body movement. So move to feel better, mindfulness, work-life balance. So some of those things that you may not necessarily think would be a trending topic, just goes to show that it's not just for mental health resources and disorders and topics, but it's also, there's goal setting on there. There's also leadership. So it's really that like well-rounded toolkit. And then I took a few resources for professional caregiving just for this call today. And these are some of the things I came across. So I'm going to give you a tour of Credible Minds shortly, but when we go on Credible Minds, there's a search bar at the top, and I just typed in professional caregiving, and it came up with this page. I just took a screenshot of the top, but when I give you a tour, I'll do the same thing, and you can see how many. There was a huge list, like the page went on forever, of the different things that are on offer. These are just a few of the resources. So tips to manage chronic stress while caring for your loved ones, conquering burnout, how to avoid burnout, burnout resiliency, and caring for a loved one. There were also more professional care, the given ones down below. And then on the right-hand side, there's an assessment on there called Is Care for Others Taking a Toll on You? And that asks questions about your mental health, and there are a few different questions about how you feel and if any traumatic events are sticking in your mind. And there's a few different questions tailored in there for caregivers. So that's always a good place to start. And then top rated apps, there's one on there called Heroes Health. That was an app that was promoted for professional caregiving. Like I said, this is just screenshots of the website that I took. And when I give you a tour, I can zoom in a little bit more on what is on offer specifically for professional caregivers. And then these are just the benefits of Credible Mind in general. So like I said, some self-empowerment. You can take charge of your own mental health with a free, confidential to use platform available 24/7. You can understand your mental health a little bit more. There are lots of assessments on there. I think the most comprehensive one is the 12-minute mental health assessment. It asks lots of different questions. And what's nice about the assessments is at the end, it gives you like scores. So it could say, for example, based on the answers you gave today, you may be at high risk for anxiety. Based on the answers you gave today, you may be at high risk for PTSD or depression, depending on how you answer it. And similar to what was discussed earlier, these answers can change. So you can take the assessment one day and you can have a look at how you're feeling, maybe look at some resources, look at some, do some work on yourself and do some work around some of the answers you were given. And then you could go and do the assessments again and see how those differ. You can also learn new skills. So whether you're looking to develop mindfulness practice, stay focused at work, or be a better friend, like I said, there's lots of resources for a full wellbeing toolkit. and then resources for everyone. So no matter age, race, or gender, everyone should have access, and they should be available to everybody. So there's resources for everybody on the site. And I said that you don't need to sign up earlier, and you don't. You can use it, you can take assessments, you can look at all of the resources without signing up. But there are some benefits to signing up for both the end user and also for First District ourselves. So for the end user, the benefits are that you can choose favorite resources, pick up where you left off. You can save and track assessments results. You can receive personalized resource recommendations, and it learns. So it's similar to Facebook and other social medias. It learns based off what you're searching and what you're looking at and what you're spending the most time on. And it can build the platform more specifically for you and your needs. So those are the benefits for the end user. The benefits for First District is that we can better understand what people in our community are looking at. So we can see potentially people in our community maybe are researching loneliness, or maybe they're researching, in fact, I just ran a report and we could see that people in our community are looking at, they were looking at PTSD, anxiety, depression, and building courage. So building courage wasn't one that I expected to see on there. So it's good that we can learn from what our community are looking at, because then maybe we can tailor our services. So for example, like I said, loneliness, if we saw that potentially people in the age range of, I don't know, 65 and plus were struggling with loneliness, then maybe we could look at offering something in our community that might bring people together and give a little bit more of a social interaction. So we can learn a lot from what we can see on there, and it just means we can serve our community better. So again, that is my email address, and that was a really quick preview. I wanted to open up this, and I want to make sure I'm still sharing that.
Did you ask if you're still sharing your PowerPoint?
Can you see the web page now, or are you seeing the PowerPoint?
I'm just seeing the PowerPoint.
Okay, let me share this one. Can you see the web page now?
Yes.
Okay, so this is kind of what Credible Mind looks like. We've got the logo up here, which is always the home button, and then First District Health, if you click on that, it will take you to our website. Lots of different places have Credible Mind affiliation and have partnered with Credible Mind. Bismarck and Burley have their own, Fargo Cast have their own. Everyone will look a little bit different because you tailor it to your own. Up here we have the topics. So as I said, there's so many different topics. If I was to scroll down, there's topics, for example, about parenting, personal development, social anxiety, grief, trauma. There's caregiving here, job transitioning, goal setting. There is many, many different topics on here. As you can see, I could keep scrolling for quite a while. Then the assessments that I discussed are under the next tab. The one that I highlighted is a little bit further down. I just opened it. Where have we gone? Here we go. Is caregiving for others taking a toll on you? But then there's also other on there, like job stress or burnout. Is your mental health flourishing? There's some fun ones on there as well. So this dive into your personality, big 5. You get to learn a little bit about your personality. There's lots of different types of assessments. This is the most comprehensive one that I discussed earlier. And then Learning Lab, this is something new, and this is they're building this up as we go along. But these are different series. So for example, if I go on workplace burnout, it kind of has lots of different ones that are recommended kind of down the side, and they're building these kind of series up for people if they know what they need to look at. If you don't know, for example, you don't know it's workplace burnout, you don't know what you're struggling with, you don't always know what it is, you don't feel great and something's going on, but you don't know what it is, you could always start with an assessment. It's a good place to start just to kind of see where you might be struggling, because it's good in that it highlights different areas. Insights and news is kind of similar. You've got your articles and you've got different news articles, and then community resources. We're working on this page. This is kind of a work in progress at the moment, but we're adding on all of the community resources that we serve in our counties. So that is a work in progress. So I wanted to show you where I found and what I found. So when I searched professional caregiving up here in the box, when I go to topic professional caregiving, this is kind of the page that I showed on the website. And as you go down, this is kind of what you already saw, but then we've also got preventing compassion fatigue. We've got podcasts, videos, books, so different kinds of resources for different learning styles. Grief and loss for caregiving. There's some guided activities, some tips, some insights, key discussions with experts, so some TED Talks, some stories. If you're in a pinch of time, there's 5 minutes or less top-rated books regarding professional caregiving. There's peer support. So really, there is a lot going on here, and a lot of resources available for professional caregivers. And that's what I really want to highlight to you today, because I know professional caregiving can be take quite a toll on the caregiver. I just wanted to know that there are resources available on Credible Mind. We also have resources for other people. So if you have members in your family, if you have children, interestingly enough, when I ran the report, 40% of our users at the moment are the age of 13 to 17. So there are teens out there that are looking for mental health resources. So if you know anyone in your family, in your social circle, anyone at all that may be struggling, Credible Minds is always a good place to start, whether you use it as a supplement on the side of therapy. Maybe it's your first step to doing a bit of exploration with mental health. Just kind of spread the word. We want to get these resources out. We want to fill that need that our community highlighted in those focus groups. And we just want to give people the mental health resources that they need and that they want. If anybody wanted me to show anything else on Credible Mind, or if anybody had any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any. I'm not a mental health provider. I don't have any mental health training. I'm doing my master's in public health. I just want to give these resources, but I can't answer any specific mental health questions. I just wanted to let everybody know about that.
If you guys don't mind, I'd like to share an anecdote. My first time using Credible Mind, I went to the assessments and I took that 12-minute mental health profile assessment. And when I took it, I was like, okay, I'm actually feeling like overall, like, okay, you know, I was a little bit stressed out at work, but overall I felt like I was handling the stress fine. So I filled that out, not expecting to really find anything that useful. And one of the things that they talked about was vulnerability. Like I was like in the at-risk type area of vulnerability. And I think I literally said out loud by myself in my office, like, what the F does that mean? And so then I like looked into the resources, and it was a rabbit hole. Like I have read so many books on vulnerability, and it was really life-changing. And it actually helped me through that stressful time at work that I didn't think was that stressful. So I highly recommend actually starting with that 10 or 12-minute, I think it was, assessment, because most of the time you can't pinpoint what's exactly going on.
I completely agree. When again, an anecdote from myself, when I first started experiencing anxiety, I thought I'd been diagnosed with anxiety. I thought it was just anxiety. I got given a PowerPoint. It wasn't even a PowerPoint that had any interaction in it. It wasn't like a PowerPoint that had any discussion. It was literally a PowerPoint that I clicked through, and that was it. That's all I got given by my doctor. Back when, and this was in England. I don't know if things are slightly different here, but I wasn't really given any resources that related to me or really helped in any way. And it took many, many years for me to get a diagnosis for OCD. So, for example, if I had taken an assessment, potentially, well, I've taken one now, and it says it says I'm high risk for OCD, which makes sense. But if I had taken an assessment back then, or I had access to a platform like this, things may have been slightly different. I would have got the help for OCD a lot earlier, and I would have just been able to understand my mental health a lot earlier. So even if it's just, like I said, a first step, a stepping stone, just to learn a little bit more about your mental health. We've got a lot of people that live in rural communities. There are a lot of barriers to getting to therapy or getting to find a therapist. There's maybe you're not insured, maybe you physically don't have access, maybe people still don't want to, there's still that stigma. So if there are reasons why people can't, there's always resources there for people. We don't want people to think that they're alone or they don't have access to anything. And one last thing I want to point out while I was here, actually, we do have this Need Help Now button. Credible Minds and First District are aware that resources online may not be beneficial when you're in a mental health emergency. So Need Help Now up here has all the numbers, all the text lines, for all of the helplines and that are available. So that is there as well. And that's everything from me.
Thank you so much. And I do want to just comment, thank you for sharing your story about, getting diagnosed with anxiety and not realizing that it was tied to OCD. And that's actually happened to me too. Same exact same thing. I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression, but really the underlying cause was OCD. And I think that that's really common because anxiety and depression are a symptom of many, many conditions, ADHD, autism, trauma. So yeah, it's just great that we're finally having this talk at like a national level and in our local communities and reducing that stigma around mental health. So thank you for sharing that.
That's okay.
There's lots of comments saying that they really like the site. They really like the tools and the resources. And Karen said that a psychiatrist told her years ago that anxiety and depression are symptoms of each other. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Would you care to elaborate a little bit? Give them a moment to type that in the chat.
I'm just reading through the chat now. I completely agree. It is very user friendly and it does look very nice. I'm also like, when you go on a website and it looks like it was built before computers were even built. This is a very nice, easy website to navigate. I completely agree with that.
And I do have a copy of Amy's slides that I'm going to save as a PDF, and I'll upload that to iEcho. We'll also send it out afterwards with any additional resources. Based off of like what we kind of talked about today, is there any topics that you'd like me to include in the additional resources? Since wellness is such a broad topic, I think it would be fun to just kind of get some people's input. Is there something that we haven't talked about with this series so far that you're just wanting to learn a little bit more? And we could definitely provide some of that. So feel free to throw that in the chat. And then Karen did elaborate on the anxiety and depression being symptoms of each other. So the physician or psychiatrist was explaining that you can have a primary diagnosis of one and still experiences symptoms of the others. That does make sense. It seems like they do get kind of lumped together when you think about it.
Yeah. I also just wanted to say I'm always free to come and do presentations, and we just want to get these resources out to as many people. So if there's people that you think would benefit from a presentation, whether it be a group or people at your job, I'm always happy to come along and just make people aware. Would you share my email as well in the follow-up email? Would that be okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to clarify, if anybody in this audience wants you to come and present to their organization, so maybe they're a leader at their organization and they want to share this amongst the place, you'll be able to do a one-on-one presentation with all their staff?
Yep, absolutely. We want to get it out as much as we can. We want people to get the resources they need. 100%.
And your services are free?
Yes, free.
I knew the answer to that question, but I figured I'd throw that out there since a lot of people ask that.
Yes.
I'm just saying, this is the third time that I've seen this presentation, and I've learned something new every time. So,
thank you.
I was actually telling everybody before this presentation, I've been told by 5 different people about this, so I was like, we got to bring her in because I've been told.
I feel bad usually because I'm presenting quite a lot in Minot. People are hearing me multiple times, and I usually feel guilty. I usually go and I say, I'm sorry, I recognize faces here, so you definitely have heard this at least once. And I usually get back, well, we like your accent, so we don't mind.
We don't get English accents here in North Dakota.
yeah, we accents are pretty novel here, except the Midwestern accent.
Drawing out O's and opes.
Yep. Oh, squeeze right past you.
Oh,
Well, thank you so much, both Paul and Amy. Really appreciate these wonderful presentations. So like I said, we'll send out all of this information and we'll put together another resource document. If you could take a moment to fill out our evaluation, we do require, if you're looking for social work or nursing CEUs, to fill out the evaluation. But also, if you don't need that, we would grab, Amy, you're sharing your screen. I'm glad it was just right.
oh.
Let you know that so you can be brutally honest if you need to.
I'm just gonna get good marks all along, don't worry.
Yeah, so please take a moment to fill out that evaluation. It really helps us, like I said, tailor these series, because we'll delete sessions if we were like, okay, it wasn't that great, or we make tweaks to it coming or going forward. But we hope you can join us next week for our session. And I know on our website, and I echo, it was initially titled Effective Communication with Supervisors, but we are going to switch that up. We're actually going to talk about understanding ableism and how it impacts direct care work. We will still talk about effective communication with supervisors in our case presentation, but we really wanted to celebrate Disability Pride Month. This is a brand new session we haven't done before, so if you've joined us in previous implementations of this series, we would love to have you at this next one. So thank you again, everybody. It was great to see all the familiar faces. I'm gonna be sad when this series ends, because I don't know, you guys have been with us from the start, so just appreciate seeing you every week.
Yeah, this has been a really good group.
Yeah, it really has. So we'll play some background music so people have a moment to click on that evaluation. And we'll probably close the room here in about 2 more minutes. Thank you again, Amy and Paul. Really appreciate